new. They have their
And you're alive.
probably within the last 5 years. Next Thursday.
I'd like to call the meeting to order, please.
There. So they just built the house.
Yeah.
My husband can get the loan. Across the street, same neighbors.
I'd like to call the meeting to order, please.
Somebody got to mute.
Please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States
of America
and
and
to the republic
for which it stands, one
one
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
liberty,
liberty, and
justice
justice
for all.
for all.
Thank you. The order of business tonight is the budget hearing. Superintendent Crowley? Would you like to kick it off?
You're on mute.
Sorry, I was muted. Tonight is the first part of the budget, which is the personnel section of the budget. These are pretty much fixed prices. So I'm going to turn it over to Craig Enos so he can go through this with you. Craig?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Before we begin, I just want to do a quick overview of the sheet that you all have in front of you. So the sheet is broken down into columns. The first column is the description, which lists the positions. Second column is called grant. So the positions that are covered by a grant have a G right next to the position in the column. The next column over lists the building where the position is located. And the next column is the projected fiscal year 21 salary, followed by the next column of projected fiscal year 21 benefits, and then finally, total compensation for that position. With regards to the projected fiscal year 21 salaries, there are no increases projected at this time. Only step increases are included in the fiscal year 21 salaries. Regards to the benefits, you'll notice that some benefits are high, some benefits are low. That depends upon the healthcare benefits that the employee has chosen, and as well as the copay rates, which could range from 8% up to 25%. And finally,
excuse me, Craig. So
sure.
the benefits does not include pension?
Yes, I'm sorry. So the benefits includes your healthcare,
Health?
retirement,
Okay.
and all the payroll taxes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And so we pay into the employees' retirement system for the certified staff, and then for the municipal, for the non-certified staff.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And then finally, vacant positions or new positions are listed in red, and I will be reviewing those and pointing those out to you as we go along. So starting out with the top of page 1, under the CTC, you can see that there is an opening for a teacher of allied health. This position is there, this brand new position is there due to the increase in enrollment in the program that is projected at the CTC. And then finally, the rest of page 1 just takes you through the rest of the CTC, the district level positions, the Early Learning Center at Oldham, and the beginning of East Providence High School, all of the positions there, which then continue on to page 2.
Craig, can I ask a question?
Oh,
Absolutely. Yep. Who said that first? I'm
no,
sorry.
go ahead, Joel. Then I'll ask after you.
Just backing up to the new position, the teacher allied health. Maybe so. 2 questions. One, is it filled, or is that just a kind of a salary cap, a filler to a protective filler, right?
Correct.
For the numbers that are in there.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So that right. So that's. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. Okay.
Nope. So that's that's posted at the top step with the masters. So.
Okay.
But that position has been posted on School Spring and hasn't been filled yet.
Okay. And then how does it differ from the teacher vocational health occupations? Or does it? I know you said that the programs have expanded, so is it a different course? It's not really a critical.
My understanding is that it is the same.
Right. It is the same, Joel. It's just that the numbers increased. There's an increased demand for the allied health program.
So why are we, I guess, does it matter, or was there a reason why it's titled differently? Or was it just
I just think that that was the old title that was in the budget, the second one,
Okay.
but it is the same teaching position. We're looking for a school nurse teacher, similar to Tracy, who's there now. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. We'll change that too, so
No,
it'll be the same though. Not a problem.
No, if it
That makes
doesn't
sense
mean
because I do try to keep things the same.
And I had the same question about the salary.
Okay, yep. Okay, so if you go over to page 3 for the East Providence High School, you can see that we have 2 openings there. So one is for a teacher of science and the other is a teacher for special education resource. And again, that salary amount there is just a place. All right. And then if you go over to, I'm sorry, continuing on to page 4.
Sorry, I'm going to ask another question, Craig.
Sure, absolutely.
So I'll try to get them early. So you said both of these positions, they're not filled yet. So we have space holder numbers in there, correct?
Correct.
But the benefits number is different.
So I tried to balance that out with family and individual. So trying not to
overinflate.
correct.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I did one family, one individual. We'll see what happens.
Okay. All right.
All right. Continuing on to page 4, under facilities, you can see that we have a vacancy for custodian B during the days over at White Neck. This was a full-time position that we had. It was vacant and it was being filled by a long-term substitute, and now that position can be posted, which is why I have it there. So someone will fill that. Continuing over onto page 5 for Myron J. Francis Elementary, you can see that we have an opening for a kindergarten teacher there. And then a little ways down under Hennessy, there's an opening for an ELL teacher that will be shared between Hennessy and White Neck.
Both of those positions have been filled recently and were on my desk today. So you'll see them in the school committee meeting.
Okay, how are we splitting a position at 2 schools during COVID?
Well, this was before COVID.
Okay,
And
so
we were advertising, for a position. We're not going to be able to do that.
so what are we
going
doing?
in, so we're going to have to rearrange. Yes.
Okay, so what is our plan?
Well, right now we don't have one. We wanted to get the teacher first, but that's something we're working on with all the teachers that travel as phys ed teachers, art teachers, music teachers.
Okay,
MLL.
so we hired 1 teacher, right?
Correct.
Okay, so we hired 1 teacher
MLL.
right now for ELL.
Yeah, ELL.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Difficult position to get. You're lucky, the ELL.
And that would be the same with going over on page 6. There's a opening for an ELL teacher to be shared between Martin and Riverside. So that'll be in the same situation as the Hennessy and White Neck job. Did we hire yet for that?
Yes, that position too.
Okay, good. Okay.
So the numbers at both schools have gone up for ELL students?
The numbers at, yes, at Waddington, we didn't have a program. We had to put a program in by law. And
Yeah.
then, Silver Spring, the students that were at Silver Spring were then able to go back from Silver Spring to Waddington. So
Oh.
Silver Spring's numbers went down. So we were able to use that as a part-time position and then a part-time position at, oh, where did it go? The other part-time position that we just approved. We're sharing, well, we were going to share that person.
And what
Now-
about Riverside and Martin? Those numbers have gone up?
Yes, Riverside and Martin, yes.
Okay,
We were going to share one, but
yeah,
now we have
yeah.
to look at that.
right. Thank you.
Okay. Continuing on, so with pages 7 and 8, there are no new positions that are listed for Orlo Avenue, pre-K, pupil personnel, Riverside, and Silver Spring. Okay. At the top of page 9, within the superintendent section, you'll notice a position called systems engineer. With the opening of the new East Providence High School slated for September of 2020, and the complexity of the mechanical systems that are within the new building, it is recommended by our owner's project manager, as well as the construction manager at risk, that we have an engineer designated to the new building to ensure operational efficiencies of all the systems. At this point, we don't know if it needs to be an engineer that we hire as an employee, or if it's a firm that we contract for services. At this point, the superintendent and the director of facilities and I are still in the informational gathering stages, so that we can bring this forward. So we're not sure at this point. However, since this position could be a position, that's why I listed it here. If it turns out that we're going to go in the way of hiring a firm to provide that services, then we would need to do an RFP, and that position would come out of this section, and the firm would be part of the purchase services section of the budget, which you'll be reviewing at the next time.
And this person would not come on board until perhaps April of next year, March or April of next year.
Excuse me, are they recommending someone full-time on site
Yes,
in the building? Okay,
yes, yep. And that salary that is there, that was from a survey that I had done, that was an average range for
Yeah.
an engineer with the qualifications that we're looking for.
okay.
All right. And then next, a little bit further down on page 9, you can see that there's an opening for a teacher at Waddington Elementary, and no other new positions listed at White Neck.
That kindergarten position has been filled as well.
Okay. So going over to page 10, which I know is the important part.
Was that a top step position filled at 78,000?
That,
I don't know.
I believe is only first step, but she
First
just
step.
retired. I mean, they just interviewed, so he wouldn't have
Okay.
known. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
just
I
thank
wouldn't
you.
have known.
first step teacher.
Can I ask one more question quickly? I'm just going through all the grant funding of the pre-K. Is it, am I reading this correctly that the pre-K positions, the principals are not grant funded?
No. Go ahead,
So
Kathy.
no principals are grant funded.
Wait. No, they're not grant funded in the pre-K grant per se. There was
Per
extra
se.
per se. Well, there was money in the pre-K grant, and one of the principals, Martin Middle School, salary was partially picked up by that grant.
Okay, can we
It wasn't
mark,
written in, it
And
had to be amended.
And that was for this year.
Yes.
Okay, so
Okay.
partially it's picked up. So can we
Yeah.
mark that on here next time?
Well, we don't know what the number's gonna look like this year, so we didn't want to do that.
Okay,
It depends on how that categorical comes through, if it's the same amount. And we'll know that as soon as we have a state budget,
okay.
okay?
Okay.
And we'll adjust
Has it been picked up before?
No,
Celeste,
No.
was it? No?
I believe so.
Some parts,
Celeste?
yes, partial at the end of the year, if there were some monies that were unspent. We reallocated towards that.
Okay, so the state does pay for the teachers, but not the principal.
No,
No.
that is correct, because basically, you're not necessarily required to have a principal.
We're not
You're required to have someone who serves as an ed coordinator.
ed
So
coordinator.
Your principal, because we're a public school, instead
Sorry,
of
Mike.
calling the person who oversees on-site the preschools ed coordinator, we call them a principal.
Okay,
That's not a requirement. The requirement is that you have an ed coordinator.
okay. Okay,
And
thank you.
It pays for the parapros too, Jessica. the
Okay.
grant, Okay?
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Could I ask something? Sorry, Craig.
No, go right ahead.
Do you have anywhere, for example, the number of positions for the teachers union, the number of positions for the secretaries union, number of positions for the paraprofessional, and a comparison from last year to this year
So
in
I
terms of
that
positions?
in front of me, but that's something that we can easily put together and
You could?
Yep.
I'd like to just see a comparison between last school year and then the projected for this school year. How many positions plus or minus in each of the categories?
Sure.
Thank
Sure.
you.
You're welcome.
If it's not, no hurry, just,
Yep.
thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions before I wrap it up?
Greg, you'll send that information out to all of us?
Oh, yes, certainly. Yep. I'll send
Thank
it out to everyone.
Craig, I got a question for you. That systems engineer at the high school, would he just be hired for the high school?
Correct. Yes.
That's what they're recommending, Mr. Ferreira, because of the complexity, I'm sure you know, of the mechanical, the electrical, and all of that. And they feel that that will take up, most of a person's time. They have to come in and do professional development with the companies that install them, and things of that nature. And so he would be the one that would be responsible for all of that. That's what we've been told.
All right. I just like to research that a little bit. There's I have a couple of issues with that. For that sum of money, just to have an individual assigned to a brand new building, I understand the complex of the building, but I also understand we have a company now in the district that it's the only company that we can have work on some of our heating and engineers, and we're paying large sums of money. And to have one individual in a brand new facility that is going to be basically the only brains to operate it, that can come back and affect us in a big way a couple of years down the road. So I hope we can
We'll look
discuss
into it
that a little further.
We can, absolutely, we can. Yeah, no problem.
And this would change the flow chart, correct? That we just approved
Yes, it would.
a week or so ago, so that this will have to be built into the flow chart again
Correct. And
for
keep
the
it,
policy committee, of course.
Yep.
How are we doing on recalls?
Right now, we haven't recalled anyone else. We're doing the hiring.
How many teachers are still?
I believe there are 11 teachers. We had to go out for special ed elementary because there was no on the recall list that was certified in those
Okay,
positions. So we had some open positions. We went to our list, they weren't certified. So we probably, I believe, have 11 there. On the para-pro side, we have on that list, I think there's something like 30 some, but 11 of those paras worked for us longer than 1 year. They're the first 11. The rest of those paras on that list were 1 year positions. They came in and their positions had to go to the job placement, and people that were displaced took those positions. Depending on how we are going to be opening and depending on our budget, we could recall, and this is all dependent on how we're opening and whether we open at all. We could be recalling 11 of those para-pros back to positions in schools, which was our intention initially. But now with the proposals that we had to put forward and the restrictions on the number of people that can be in contact with children in the buildings at this point in time, and if we go out again, let's say in November, we come in and then we go out, we'd be paying these people for nothing. So we're just holding off to look at what September is going to bring and what the budget will bring.
how about the maintenance union? Were we able to recall
I don't believe we had anybody on layoff the maintenance union.
any of
We had
the
openings.
custodians?
Nope.
Oh, we didn't? Oh, okay.
We may have to.
And now
look
the
at-
11 teachers, those are middle and high school certified?
Well,
The 11 teachers
some
that
of
are
them-
still out, those are
Some of them
second,
are just elementary certified, don't have the special ed elementary when we were looking for special ed.
okay.
The kindergarten certification that we were hiring for, some of them didn't have the kindergarten, the pre-K to K, 2. So
Yeah,
we always go to the layoff list first and look.
okay.
Now, having said that too, we have done a survey to see how many teachers are willing to come back if school opens, and concerns for their own safety because they have underlying conditions or they have a family member with an underlying condition. And those are for para-pro secretaries, custodians, right across the board. In some instances, if that happens and they do go out on a medical leave, we would have to replace them, and we would probably try to replace them with people that would be on our layoff list. There's so many things happening, as you know, with these plans. There's so much uncertainty. So that's another option we're looking at.
With the conditions in the teacher's contract where they have to notify you by a certain date if they're going to retire, will that be ignored if people choose to retire?
Absolutely.
So if we have people that for health reasons or whatever do not wish to return and put in for retirement, those benefits that they would have gotten if they notified you, I forget, it was by what, April or something?
Yeah, February.
That
Yeah.
stipulation will be,
Right. We would look at that if it was a problem. Yeah.
sorry.
There are a lot of things that we have to talk to the unions about as we move forward with some of these plans. And I've been in contact with Nick Shattuck, and we will be looking at some of these things for the plans because some of the actions really are contractual issues. So we're going to have to do some MOAs on those. But yes, we would look at that, Karen. On our 2 steps, we have 308 out of 403 teachers.
I'm
So
sorry, say that again, please.
The 10th step.
Wow.
We have 308 out of 403 teachers on 10th step.
That's because of that pension thing.
You're right.
Get me going on that. I thought so because when you look at the salary column, everybody's on top step.
Yeah.
Karen,
It's
Karen, what'd you
this
say?
is
Somebody was
costing
gonna
us a
pay,
ton.
right?
Wow, that's what I told a candidate, somebody that was on the committee when it happened to me. I said, somebody's paying me. It's either going to be the state or it's going to be the school department. And it ended up being the school department, but we're paying for sure. 308 of them. That's huge. Well, Rhode Island has a very
Rhode
older,
Island. Yeah, the whole
old
state.
teaching population, the whole
And
state.
And understand that with the teachers, the paraprofessionals, the administrative assistants, and the custodians, those people that are on 10th step, they did not receive the raises that other people got. The teachers have steps. Everyone that was on a step went up a step. That raise ranges from $2,000 to $3,000. Now, all of those people on 10th step got nothing. Same thing with the paraprofessionals.
Right,
All of
yeah.
those paraprofessionals received nothing. Administrative assistants, the same thing, and the custodians, because they all have steps. But if you're on the top step, and we haven't been able to have negotiations because of the financial situation, these people receive nothing. There's nothing in this present budget for these people. So that little savings, don't get excited about that on the bottom of this page, because we also have to do part 2 of the budget for you, which is the general budget. And some of that monies that we look like we're saving will have to be used in other areas. If you remember last year, right after completing the budget, we got hit with $1 million more in out of district tuitions. So we have to do a comparison from year to year. And so that's not a savings yet until we finish the budget for you. And then, you know, you can make some decisions.
Any other questions?
Greg, I got a
Mitch
question for Craig.
McConnell said today. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tony.
Craig, a question I have, the money that was saved for sports this year, do we know where that's going to get allocated to?
Not at this point. So we still have a couple more months left of the fiscal year, you know, and we'll have a better sense of what exactly that savings number is once the school year starts and once a determination is made, you know, if there's going to be no fall sports.
All right. Can you just keep the committee informed?
Sure.
What in other words, we know what the number is. I believe we all got the paperwork about a month ago. But
Yep.
before that money gets spent or it just gets rolled into the budget, if we can just inform the whole committee where that money is going to be spent at, it's a decent chunk of change that
Yep.
I didn't think we were going to have to use it, even roll it into you know, this coming September. But if we do, we do. But once we get to the point of finalizing that bank of money time-wise is gone, just to give us the exact amount left and on what we're going to end up doing with it, please.
Absolutely. Of course I will.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ben Russell, do we have any public comments or questions?
We did not before the meeting. Let me check right now. There are no public comments.
Okay. Anything else from the committee?
I just want to ask a question. So we're looking at approved salaries of $47 million, correct? Like
Yes.
$47.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
No, that was from
Who?
20.
Of 20, right? Of,
Yep.
of
Yeah,
20.
that's the
We're
current
looking
year.
at 40,
That's the current year.
40 right. So 48.40459 this year, right?
45.8.
Right. Are we looking at any need for any more social, emotional, any more need for social workers or psychologists because of COVID? in our district this year?
No, we're not at this present time. We did finally hire a social emotional coordinator, which is a grant funded position.
Okay.
Okay, from IDEA. That person will be working very closely with Leslie and Bud and the social workers and the psychologists, and drafting plans for us with them on the needs of the district as it relates to social emotional issues.
Okay. As we're going forward, I think that is an important, that we need to remember all of this, that this may not look, as we're going forward this year and going towards the year, that this is what we have and this is what we're going for. This may not be what we need going forward. This is what we have going forward, but this is what we may not need going forward. We may need more. And
Yes.
I like to put on the record that we may need more. And I would like to make sure that that is said, and that I am the one saying it right now, that we may need more in our schools and we may need more for our children and our staff at this time.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee?
Kelly, I have one for Kathy, or maybe Joel can answer it. Joel or Kathy, going back the beginning of the year, there was somewhere in the book to stop maintaining the new high school. Joel, did we get to that point? I know the book had, it has a bunch of categories that you guys are following through, but I thought around June or July we might be getting to the point of where we can start to see the cost to maintain the new high school, like where we, where this number just came up is in the budget, for 184,000 for that position. Is there any way, Joel, in the next few months you think we might be at that point?
So I can get a timeline for you, Tony, on that. I know what you're speaking of. Part of the contract to all the subs that are, doing putting all of these components into the building, it is a requirement that they provide that training, and then also the maintenance instructions that will go into that said book. So Gilbane will coordinate that, and we will have, let's call it an operations manual, right? For I can't remember the exact term, but I think that's what you're speaking to. So at this point, that has not been submitted because that work is ongoing. So once it's all, everything is in place and trainings have been given, there is a handover of that type of a document, but I can get you a better timeline, Tony.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Joe, because, as that usually takes place at the end of this project, where somebody's going to have probably a stack of books and computer, images and stuff. But I'm just saying, there's got to be somewhere at this point, a dollar amount to maintain that custodial wise, normal grounds maintaining. Are we saying that we don't know what it's going to cost to clean that building and maintain the grounds at this point? We don't have a number on that yet.
So one, I would say that maybe I misunderstood your first question. I thought you were asking about the book. If you're asking me for, what it costs for man hours on the building, no, we don't. I wouldn't have that, and I would leave that to, or at least include, the facilities director and that plan with the building. I mean, I couldn't tell you now what the cost is. I don't think any of us know what the actual cost is to maintain Orlo Avenue School today. I mean, unless we can look at a salary, but there's going to be supplies. There's going to be a lot of different components. So, we've got multiple people on site. So we haven't worked out that detail. We haven't had that formal discussion for me to speculate. So, we just know that when it comes to the systems piece, we knew going in any modern building that's going up, any modern, let's call it a commercial building, because essentially, right, that's what this is. Things are driven, it's networked, it's software oriented. If I go back, I can tell you, Martin Middle School is not that new of a building, but it's not that old, and I know for a fact, and you probably know better than I do, Tony, the struggles that our guys had trying to get that those air systems to work together, because they didn't coordinate, they didn't speak to each other. So there was some sincere attempts by our guys to work with the computer systems, but it was a dog chasing a tail situation. And, you know, it just kind of speaks to the importance and the need for having an engineer, a systems engineer. So, you know, and that, you know, we've talked about that. If we're going to invest in this building, the public was very clear about saying, don't give us a new building and then watch it, you know, fall apart. And that's exactly what would happen if we didn't hire the right skill sets for the technology that's going to be in this building. But you know, I'll see if I can get a timeline from a project manager as to when that discussion you know, should be happening, and I'll get back to you with something this week, Tony.
Yeah, no, Joe, even if it's down the road, because like I said, this is because it all falls into the line of, you know, what you had just said. When we look at Martin as a 40-year building, the condition it's in, we don't want to discuss.
Yeah.
The condition the building is in is because it was never basically publicly stated it's going to cost X amount of dollars per year to keep this building, say it at a level 1 for the first 8 years, a level 2 for 8 years following. And it was, my question mainly is, nobody has a dollar amount to maintain a building of this magnitude, what it would cost per square foot to maintain. I mean, cut the grounds. Every commercial building that is built, whether it's 2 office buildings or 4 office building complex, the property manager knows that he has to put X amount of dollars to maintain the grounds, X amount of dollars for private contractors to come in, clean, nightly cleaning, weekly cleaning, quarterly cleaning. None of that is done on a building of the magnitude of $185 million. I don't understand.
Wait. That would be a false statement. I mean, let's. I mean, I understand what you're doing and what the agenda is, but you know, let's be clear. There's a process to this. So what you're doing is you're asking, while we have steel and plywood, you're asking what the maintenance specifics are to the building, and then you just made the statement, which is inaccurate, to say that this is not part of the plan. To which I said, it absolutely is part of the plan. It has not been addressed as of yet. The school opens potentially in 14 months. So as we go through this process, we've got to understand the systems that are going to be in place. The grounds, you know, the fact that the GMP was just recently approved and finalized includes turf. So that would change, you know, we're not cutting grass on the facility other than maybe around parking lot. So there's the timing for that plan would have changed. So without knowing what's on the site and what's going into place, that doesn't exist today. But it would be a false statement to say that it's not going to be laid out well in advance of that building going into place. And obviously, for budgetary reasons, we absolutely need to know what it's going to cost to maintain that building.
Right.
Without question.
Joe, when will we know that, Joe? Any idea?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
If I can, I'm involved with Tony Fiola on a committee where we're applying for a lot of the credits that are going to come back from Northeast about the efficiency of the school. One of the elements that we're applying for, it has to do with the planning for the cost of maintaining the school and keeping it at the efficiency that it is day one, 10 years, 20 years down. So one of the items that we will be getting as part of that is a 20-year maintenance plan for the building with cost of all that maintenance. That will be coming up front. Again, I believe that will be delivered with the finished building, but that is all that information is coming to us.
And Ben, did you say it'll be when the building's finished, or when will we have that?
I believe, I am not certain, but I believe that that information will come when the building is complete. Some of the meetings that we had were with all of the trades that were designing the systems that cost the most maintenance, the heating, the cooling, and all of the the water, the plumbing, all that type of stuff. All those trades met together. And part of the efficiencies conversation, they talked about how we could make those systems integrate together, how to make them efficient from the get-go, and how to maintain those for the long haul. Is all part of it's a Northeast CHIPS is a program that we're applying for a lot of the credits back on the building.
So Charlie, just to kind of bring that around, you had asked the question of when, and I will get you a timeline as to when that'll be appropriate. Speaking with project manager and Gilbane as to when we'll have all the information as far as the needs to maintain the building, and then we can figure out how many bodies and resources it will take to maintain the building. I think it's definitely a fair. It's more than a fair question. It's a necessary question, right? I mean, this is our job is budget, so we can't do the budget without knowing what we need for resources. But as we sit today on July 20th, 21st, my days are a blur right now, but July of 2020, that information is not yet laid out.
Joel, you had mentioned to Tony that you were going to send him some information.
You talking about today?
Yeah, when he started out this question.
Yeah, I told him that I would try to get that timeline to give him an anticipated time that we expect to cover that type of information.
Okay, will you send it to all of us, please?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Because as you just said, it's very critical. It's a critical point.
Yeah. Yes, it is. It is.
Yeah, and Joel, I just want to follow up with that because some of the quick little bits. The reason that I had brought it up at this meeting, and we got to remember that I've been dealing with this for many years of my life. This was a discussion I had back in probably October or November of last year, and the reason I'm bringing it up now is you said that it's in a master plan book and we should be approaching it at about June or July. That's why I'm bringing it up now. It is no other hitting agenda why I'm bringing it up now. The reason I brought it up now was I brought this up 6, 8, 9 months ago, and you had said when we roll along through the master plan, when we get into maybe June or July, we should be at that stage to see what the building, how many guys would be to, maintain it at a professional level. That's the only reason I brought it up now. I brought it up 6, 8 months ago, figuring that you had said it would be, June or July, we should be at that point. That's the only, if it's not in a book right now, then I'm okay with that. If we're going to finish the whole project, that's all I'm saying, Joe. I just find it.
Well, I'm not, Tony,
to have,
Tony,
in other words,
Tony, you know construction better than I do, right?
Yes, I
Is
would.
that a fair statement?
So.
Right. So under what premise would you think that a building that is still finalizing the maintenance components, would there be a detailed maintenance plan needing parts of that plan to come from those subcontractors that are providing the equipment? Because each piece of equipment has detailed instructions, detailed needs, and there are different variations, as you know better than I. So I don't recall. I don't have any reason to say that I didn't give you that timeline, although I don't know what the context was of the question or anything like that. But all I'm saying is that we're all in this room right now, and we drive by that building, and of everybody that's on this call, you would know better than anybody that that there's still so much that is going into that building and the planning going into it, that a detailed plan of the needs to maintain that building would be premature and would be just that. It would be premature and just giving you something just to give you something, which we've done enough of that around here. And I think it's best that we just lay it out and say, okay, let's get that information when it's accurate and get it to the group. So again, these contracts have just been recently awarded for these final components, and that information will be put together. But what I'm telling you right now is I will give you a general timeline as it is given to me by project managers who know better than any of us here on this call as to how that information flows and at what rate and what point of the project it should be available. So again, I think it's a fair question to ask. I just think that we need to be fair and realistic as far as what we're expecting and when we're expecting it. But yeah, I will. I'll see what I can get for the group this week.
Yeah, but no, just so, and I respectfully, agree with it as say a taxpayer's bill, but how we look at this in the private sector, you take investors going to build an office building. They know from day one what their estimated cost to maintain the building, to remove snow, to maintain the ground. That's all calculated in the square footage price when you try to rent doctors' buildings, whether they're office buildings, dental buildings or whatever. That's where I went with this to say, as this package was put together, I took it from, conversations almost a year ago as the project went, there would be a number already, because if this was a private developer renting out all of these as per certain offices, they would already know now what it would cost or budgeted to maintain $185 million private building, because that's all wrapped around square footage price. You couldn't build a $185 million office building, not knowing what it's going to cost to maintain it, to say, could you get a fair market price of $53 a square foot? You just don't throw up a $185 million building and then try to get $53 a square foot if that's what you need to maintain it. There's nobody in the private sector that I know that would ever put something together like that. That's why when I brought it up over a year ago and then about 10 months ago, I thought it was rolling out like, it's as the buildings coming closer to completion, say every quarter, that at a certain point, that's why I brought it up now, Joel. I was under the impression that maybe in June or July, we would be at that point of the book to say, okay, this is what it would cost. We wouldn't need 6 guys to maintain it. We would need 8 guys because we got glass. That's what, not the facilities itself, Joel, as far as say boilers, heating, air conditioning, and stuff like that there. The mechanics of the building, just cleanly wise of the building, is what I was trying to focus on, Joel. I understand like all the mechanic parts, absolutely, those are all still working parts, but the square footage of the building should never change now. It's etched in concrete per se. The grounds, we should know whether we got, drivable pavement, or is it going to have to manually move snow? That was what I was kind of looking at, Joel, not really the inner workings of the building on that.
So what you're looking for is, like you said, in the private sector or even in the small commercial buildings, they forecast that out by a square footage number. So we should be able to, according to that, you're suggesting that we should be able to look at our building and say, what are we paying our maintenance and custodial per square foot, and apply that calculation to the high school square footage. And that's the number that you want to budget from?
To kind of get to the realm, do we need 2 more custodians to clean that building? Right. That's what I'm saying, Joel. Okay. If that's where we're at now, then that's an added price going for many years, hopefully 60, 80 years down the road. But that's what I'm saying. Like I really believe we're going to need at least 2 or 3 more guys to maintain that building at the level it's at when it's handed over to the students in the city. Or do we not maintain it at a proper level? And in 20 years, 30 years from now, we have a massive facility like Martin. That's all I'm trying to say. Like, to try to look at it and say, going into when that key's handed over, let's not look at it and say we can maintain that with the staff that we got. Could we do that? Absolutely. What would the building look 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road? That's where I'm trying to go with that, Joel, as
Right.
once in a lifetime building for us, to say, what's it going to take to keep it at that point, 10 years, 15,
Absolutely.
20 down the road?
Absolutely.
That's what I was looking for, Joel,
Yeah.
to be honest.
No,
with you.
and like I said, I think that, that's critical information. I think everybody here and everybody in the city, definitely, speaking for the building committee, everybody on the building committee is going to be on top of that. I guess, again, what I'm suggesting is that the timeliness or the timeline that's expected, considering there have been hours upon hours to get that GMP that came in, a few $1 million under budget, that was due to the detailed work and tweaking a lot of that stuff. Now that we have, and Charlie just recently signed that GMP, so that is in place, and we can now look at, okay, all of these details operationally. What are we looking at? Meeting with, I had a meeting with the AD and the project manager earlier this week, talking about some of the, exterior, because now we start to get to FF&E, right, which has an impact on the maintenance and upkeep. So those discussions are going on, so that we'll have a real solid understanding of, one, what we are upkeeping, what the durability is of, the shelf life of certain items. Again, moving from grass to turf is going to be, from a maintenance standpoint, a huge savings. So, these details are starting to fall into place now, and I think it is the right time for these discussions to start to happen. But again, Tony, I will try to get you a clearer timeline from our OPM team as to when they think it's appropriate to get some realistic figures on that, and then also working with facilities. And we'll get a number, to start with what we're doing in the district and other buildings, a square footage number, so that we can maybe use that as a baseline.
Any other questions from the committee? If there are no questions, Russell, I want to thank you personally for all of your help this evening. I appreciate it very much. If there are no other announcements, thank you, Ben Russell, for more from a few of us.
No problem. Anytime. Anything I can do to help facilitate.
Okay. If there are no other questions, is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. Superintendent Crowley, do you want to announce the next meeting before we adjourn?
You're muted,
Is there a meeting date? Are there any dates that we need to be aware of going forward?
Kathy, you're muted.
Just our next regularly scheduled meeting,
Okay,
which is the second Tuesday in August.
and then we'll have another budget hearing?
Another half of the budget, yeah.
Okay, there's a motion to adjourn, and we have a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Right.